Thanks for tuning in to A Better World, where we aim to illustrate that today is the greatest time to be alive and show the progress we're making as a civilization. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over an article that I read from Business Insider, and it is titled, Tokyo's 2020 Olympics to feature driverless taxis, Robo translators, and rely solely on renewable energy. Right from the title, we can tell that this is going to be an interesting topic, and we're going to discover a lot of the innovations that Japan has been working on for the past few years. One of the first things that I would like to cover in the article is the driverless taxis. Now, I know if you're like my wife, she's kind of scared of the idea of having autonomous vehicles and, without humans to intervene and control things. It is a scary thought, though. I know a lot of people are, think the worst when it comes to things like that because we rely so much on ourselves and we trust ourselves so much that I guess maybe it's just a fear of becoming obsolete, which is rational. So I know my wife isn't the only one who thinks that. However, I have a more optimistic view of it. Because from what I've read and from what I know is that they tend to be safer than human drivers and just make less errors in general. And with the trials that they've done so far on these driverless taxis in Japan, they've gone without a hitch. There hasn't been a single incident. They've been safe. But mind you, they haven't drove, extremely long distances or anything like that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they are planning to do, major journey destinations and things like that with people who sign up to do it. I do know that the last trial for it, before it is going to be released in the 2020s Olympic Games, there will be 1,500 people who have already signed up to try it out. So that's really cool. But if you're somebody that's like my wife, who is scared of having machines kind of take you places without you being in control, there's no need to fear because they will have a driver and an assistant. If human intervention is needed, they can step in. So that's a little comforting, I'm sure, to some people who are skeptical of this whole autonomous and robotic future we're about to be heading into. So that's something cool right there. And not only that, but something that's just, it's a little thing, but it's the little things that really, really make some things really cool. And that is the fact that you can unlock the car with your smartphone. So I assume that you will have to get an app so that way you can say, all right, well, this is the taxi that I want, so let me unlock the door, it pulled up to me, whatever. And something that isn't too unique or isn't new at all, just conveniency that we've all been spoiled to already is, yes, you can pay the fare on your phone. Don't need any cash, pay it on your phone. But that's something we've been doing for a while now. And then the other thing that really fascinates me is the Robo translators. Not only will they be able to do just that, translate, but they will also be scattered around airports so that way they can help people if they need it, carry luggage. Not only that, not only carry luggage and direct, but give people directions. So they're going to be able to have a conversation with you, not an in-depth one, I'm sure, because this is like the genesis of AI and implementing robots to do this kind of work. It's pretty new to do something like this. Obviously, we have some AIs and technology doing some things like customer service and things like that, but this is actually going to be one that interacts with you in person where you can see it and feel it. So that's really cool, and that the whole AI, thing is very fascinating, but also very scary. So if that technology is something you're really into and you would really like to see it in play, it looks like Tokyo is the move to make. So that way you can go check out, a driverless taxi and talk to a robot and get some directions. Now, obviously, that's just the origins. I'm sure this will be a lot more advanced within 10 years, but we have it now. Who would have imagined that in 2018 that we would have this kind of technology? Obviously, I'm talking my generation. I know before we had some very unrealistic expectations of what 2000 would look like, or even 2000 16, things like that. We were way off on that. You know, a lot of the older generations were, but that's no fault of their own. Just simply a little too ahead of the time, expecting too much done in too little time. But now we're actually seeing the development of what used to be called, you know, science fiction is now becoming a reality. Now, moving on to the renewable energy part, which is also, in my opinion, equally fascinating because it is something that will change the very infrastructure that we use, which is, to me, equally terrifying and equally exciting, because that means, you know, obviously a lot of people will go out of business. A lot of people who have big money will probably suffer from that. So there's a lot of investment made, and a lot of bad things can happen with that. However, a lot of good things that can happen too. And in Japan, they're just going right for it. They are making solar roads, which may sound a little weird. You may think, how can you drive on a solar panel? That just doesn't make sense. It'll break. You'll crush it. What if you have a semi-truck or just a regular truck or an SUV driving on that thing? What if there's potholes? What if you bump and jump on it? But there's no need to worry about that because they're going to be covering it with some kind of resin. So it almost looks like little bricks, little blue bricks on the road. Not exactly a brick, but like little pieces of a brick cut evenly, split, divided between a road to cover up the solar panels. From some videos that I saw, that's what it looks like. So that's really fascinating. And like in the titles, you know, it said already that it's going to be run completely off of wind and solar power. And they're not just talking about the venue. Let's make this clear. They're not just talking about the games and everything like that goes into it, but they're talking about the International Broadcasting Center. They're talking about the main press conference. The main press center. They're talking about the athlete villages where they're going to stay. So, majority of the things that are going to be going on in the Olympics, well, pretty much everything, like they suggested in the title, everything is going to be run off of renewable energy. That right there is awesome, and that'll be really exciting to see. The kind of things we can do with solar or wind power that we may not have known that we could do because we rely so heavily on, you know, fossil fuels and things of that nature to get our energy. But it looks like we're slowly turning the tide and going to renewable energy, which is not only good for the environment, but it's going to be good for us too. We're going to be breathing in cleaner air. There'll be less pollutants. Just an all-around good thing. And another thing that they're doing that is right up there, I mean, with as far as like, it's interesting for sure, but it's not, in my opinion, as innovative is more so than it is really just something good to do, and that is their metals that they're going to be providing at the games are going to be all made out of recycled cell phones and cameras, which they've already received donations upwards of 80,000 phones and cameras they have received so they can meet their goal, which is to make all the metals, you know, the bronze, silver, gold, out of recycled metals, which is awesome. And the way they can do that is apparently there is like small precious metals you can find within all those devices that can make up the actual metals that you give out. So that's really cool. And not only that, but they're going to be recycling 99% of all other goods that are being used at the Olympics will be either reused or recycled. So once again, we just keep seeing like these innovations coming out and the world changing. I mean, we're living right now on the cusp of huge changes coming our way. Like, the world is about to be way different than we can even imagine. And I know a lot of people are excited about it. A lot of people are scared about it. I think both emotions are equally justified because it'll be something totally different, something nobody could probably anticipate nor imagine in a million years, because things are developing so quickly, and it's just going to be really interesting to see how the Olympic Games turn out in 2020 in Tokyo, with all these cool innovations. And maybe by that time there'll be something even better out, even more advanced than what we have now. Who knows? Maybe there will be no need for a driver or an assistant, the driverless taxis, by the time the games come around. Who knows? Maybe most of Japan will be run off of completely, renewable energy. I don't know, but a lot can happen in 2 years, as we've seen. We've seen in the 2000s alone. Back in 2000, you would have called somebody crazy if they told you, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna become a YouTube star." For one, they would have been like, "What the hell is that?" Because it didn't even exist. YouTube didn't even exist in 2000. Isn't that crazy? Now we can imagine a world without it. So that's the way we're going. I mean, just with like small little improvements like that have led to things like this that we're going to see in the 2020 Olympic Games. So I don't know about you guys, but I know I'm pretty excited to see and hear and read about how this technology is improving and how it's going to be implemented in the games, and when the games actually arrive and we actually get to see or hear, directly in how they are, the robots interacting with people and how the driverless cars are working. So I hope you all enjoyed the episode. I hope you learned something. Hope you got something out of it. And like always, if you like what you heard or saw, subscribe, pass it along to a friend. And if you have any suggestions on a topic that you would like me to do, that you know that we have made progress in, then let me know, and I'll be happy to do it after, doing my research. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Peace.